What's going on, guys? Today I am replacing the control arm bushings in my Dodge Ram. Mine happens to be a 98. This will work for practically all Dodge Rams that are four-wheel drive. Shouldn't really matter the year, but might be a... God damn it. What's going on, guys? Today I'm replacing the control arm bushings on my 98 Dodge Ram. This should apply for most Dodge Rams that are four-wheel drive. The years shouldn't really matter too much. It's all going to be kind of the same process. It might be a little different on your pickup, but for the most part it's going to be pretty close to the same. But here are your control arms. You got two on each side. There's 4 total, 8 bolts. And what the control arms do is they hold the axle straight. These are cam bolts down here. These kind of, the lineman shop will actually align your axle so it's straight. So that's what those control arms do. They just hold your axle in, and there's no weight on them, but they flex with your suspension. So just keep that in mind. For this job, you can actually do it with the tires on the ground. I just have them on jack stands just because it's easier for me to turn the tire and kind of get in there more, but you can do it on the ground. I've seen it done both. I've actually did the other side on the ground, but I had to take my lower control arm off again to get the top one off. So I've kind of messed around with this a lot, so I really just want to show you guys some tips and tricks that I've used to get the other side, as well as my process of actually taking these bushings out. And here are the control arm bushings right here. You can see how cracked and worn they are. I imagine these are the factory bushings from over 200,000 miles ago, 230,000 miles ago, about 20 years ago. But the really crappy thing with this job is these 8 bolts are probably going to be the hardest 8 bolts you'll ever take out in your life. Most of them are seized into the bushings, so you have to cut them with a sawzall or a grinder. Usually a sawzall because it's hard to get a grinder in most places, but I'll kind of show you how to cut them. But yeah, that's pretty much this job. It just, I mean, it just sucks. I mean, one bolt probably take you an hour, maybe more. But yeah, I just want to show you some tips and tricks that have helped me get these pesky bolts out. So I'm gonna head over to the workbench and kind of show you the tools that you're absolutely gonna need, and also the new bushings that I'm throwing into these control arms. So the first thing you're gonna need is a sawzall. This is the one I'm using. It's all right. The only problem with that I'm having is I only have 2 amp hour batteries and I have 4 of them, so I'm usually doing about 20 minutes of cutting and an hour to wait for the batteries to charge, so that's what's kind of slowing me down, but it's really not that big of a deal. But you're gonna need a sawzall. Also, what I've found for blades, this is kind of important because this will make the job go easier if you have good blades. I initially started out using these Milwaukee blades here, these torch blades. These are pretty good. I did get the cam bolt out with, I think I used 3 of them, two or 3 blade. I think 3, probably safe with 3. So I used those, but then I went to Home Depot and I got a pack of these Diablo blades. They're carbide blades and they're supposed to last like 50 times longer. Actually, these blades are awesome for this job. As you can see, I actually did cut one of the bolts with just this blade, and it still has all the teeth on it. I mean, that is just impressive, because one of these guys right here, these will wear out really quick. Maybe 2 batteries that I use. I mean, it's not a lot of cutting and you already, lost all your teeth or wore them down. But I mean, this blade is absolutely, I think is absolutely a must-have for this job, because keep in mind, these bolts that you're cutting through, these are grade 10.9 bolts. I mean, that's a thick freaking hard bolt to cut through, and it sucks. So you're gonna need all the help you can get, and I really recommend, I mean, these blades aren't cheap. It's about 15 bucks a blade, but it'll really help move this job along. So yeah, I recommend picking up a pack of these, and then maybe, you know, 6 of these guys here, these torch blades. But so that's what I've been using for that. And then another thing you're absolutely gonna need is 4-inch angle grinder. This will cut through the bolt like nothing. The only problem is it's really hard to get to the bolts using an angle grinder. Maybe you can only get to the one side of the bolt, and the other side you just can't get your grinder in there, so that's when you have to use a sawzall. So use an angle grinder whenever you can, because it'll cut through it right away, no problem. But like I said, it's just hard to get that grinder into the areas where you need to get the bolts cut. And you're also gonna need, I'd recommend probably, I don't know, say 4 or 5 cutoff wheels, because you'll go through these pretty quick, just because you have to cut kind of through the bushing to get to that bolt, to actually cut the bolt, and it's really tough on the blades. So that's what you're gonna need for cutting your bolts out. Now let's talk about the specialty tool you're gonna have, and that tool is the ball joint press. You can use a shop press if you have one, or you can just go out and rent a ball joint press. This is just a basic kit. I got this off of Amazon. It's an OTC 7249 kit, and this is just their basic kit. And it comes with the clamp, or the press I should say, and then you just got these 2 pieces, and then they just give you, you know, just a really basic set. But this is all you really need to get these bushings pressed out. I mean, I have an expansion kit for this, and I've used a piece from there, but you really don't need to. You can get away with just the basic kit. So you absolutely need this for this job. So now let's talk about cutting out those bolts, because that's really important to kind of know how to cut them. I'll just show you on the ones that I replaced where I had to cut. I had 2 bolts seized up on my driver's side. The other 2 came out fairly easy. You got to whack them with a hammer to get them out of the holes. But my cam bolt, your cam bolt too, I think the cam bolts are always going to be seized up no matter what. But actually, I got an example here. So here is my cam bolt that I cut with a sawzall. So that's what you're up against right there. And this is your bolt seized up inside your bushing here. The rubber goes around this obviously, but this is what's inside your bushing. But this part I cut with a grinder. That was pretty quick. But this part right here, that just sucked. Trying to get that freaking bolt cut. I mean, it's tough. And then here's just another one I cut out. This is from the upper, but this is what you're up against. You know, you just can't get these things, just seize up in there, and you just can't tap them out with a hammer. And in a perfect world, it should all just slide out like that, but they're not gonna. Okay, so this is the side I replaced here. You can see new bushings in there right there. Just a little tip. You can or can't do this if you want. It's up to you. I didn't. People say mark your cam bolt with a Sharpie or something, or whatever, so you can put it back in the way it came. But I got to get in alignment anyway, so I didn't do that. But this will show you. This is how you got to cut them out. So you go right behind it right there, and on either side of your control arm, let's use a sawzall blade here for an example. Got a ton of them laying around, but this is where you want to cut, is right there. This side, actually I use the angle grinder because you could actually get it in there, but this side right here, I don't think I could get an angle grinder in there, so I actually just use a Sawzall to cut it like that. But that's pretty much what you have to do, is just either Sawzall or use an angle grinder whenever you can, and just you're gonna have to cut through the bushing, the old bushing, to get to the bolt. That's fine. It's gonna smell and it's gonna smoke. Just don't cut anything that's metal except for the bolt. That's pretty much your goal. So just get that blade slid in between there. And the upper was probably the toughest, but this bolt came out for me pretty easy. The front one, the back one actually had to cut out. So that kind of sucks. But the process for this is you just want to replace one set of bushings at a time. So take your lower one off, replace that set, and you can either put it on, or I had to keep mine off because I had to cut that other bolt out. If I put my lower on, I couldn't get the Sawzall to get there to cut that bolt, that rear upper bolt. And then also to install your upper control arm, it's easier to have your lower control arm out. So what I did is I just I had both of these off and replaced them at the same time. Okay, I don't know if you can see that, but you can see I'm starting to cut through the bolt in there. Yeah, these Diablo blades work really well. Big difference. Okay guys, so I got my cam bolt cut here. I'm telling you, these blades are amazing. I only use 3 2 amp hour batteries, and well, 2.5 pretty much, because I'm still on my 3rd one. But I mean, this part right here, when I cut in between here to get this, I mean, I could just cut like butter. Took not even a minute. Other side took a little longer, but I mean, yeah, so got that cut out. I'm gonna try unbolt the back bolt now, and hopefully it's not seized. If it is, these are easy to get out because you just take your grinder to them and it just chews through them a little faster than the Sawzall. Well, you gotta get lucky sometimes. This bolt I managed just to loosen up, and I'm just gonna pound it through to the other side here and pull her out. There we go. Luckily that wasn't seized. That was just a 13/16. Used a ratchet and just a wrench. So we got get her out here. And there we go. Got her out. You can see where I cut here. Looks like I did a pretty good job. When you're cutting, make sure you don't cut on this rim here, because you actually don't want to damage that. So just try to get to the bolt as best you can. This side, same thing. Don't get too close to that rim there. But it looks like I did a pretty good job on this one. So that's good. Alright guys, we're over here at the workbench. We're gonna get ready to press these bushings out. The first thing you want to do is clean them off and then check around. See where this bulges out? You're gonna want to get a hammer and a chisel or whatever, and then you're gonna want to straighten that out so it's inside of this lip around the control arm itself, because we're gonna press this whole metal fixture out, this metal tube. So I straightened out this part here, and then straightened out this part here. And this is just so we can press out the whole assembly that way. So this has got to fit through the control arm. I'll just show you an example of how I'm straightening this out. So I just look around it, and I find it's bulging out there. So what I pretty much do, I throw her in the vise here, so it's bulging out right there. I'm just gonna get a ball peen hammer, and usually you can get it like this. It works pretty good, and there's not a lot of material to straighten out, so it's not too hard. You can also get a chisel here, and then just put it right in the piece you want to bend back, and just Give it a little tap. And just keep doing this and get everything nice and straight, and then do the same thing on the other side. And it's just these sides that we need to do because we're pushing it through the control arm. And a regular punch works really well too. Alright, so let's talk about setting up the press. In your kit, you want to grab the biggest cup you can get, and that's going to go around this part of the arm where it has this metal lip around it. You're going to throw it on so it completely covers the whole thing so it can slide in there when we pop it out. So that's the first step. Then you just want to grab your press and just throw around like that. I have to back this out a little bit. It takes pretty much all the threads that you can get. So we're gonna do that. And before we use our press, we just want to get some silicone or lube or whatever. Spray down your threads good. And then finally, you could just press it like that. I'm sure it'll pop out without the piece on there, but just so I don't get my plungers stuck in there, I'm just gonna throw on, I got this little piece from my expansion kit I have for this. I'm just gonna throw that on, but you don't need to. You could just, just put a regular washer there, or, whatever you want. Maybe a socket or something. This is how I'm gonna do it though. We just wanna get it all nice and lined up. Get it kind of centered. And then once you get it set up, I'm gonna go to the ground here so I can get more leverage on it, and we'll press this out. Okay guys, we got the press on the ground here. I made a little modification. I put a big washer here that's gonna be pressing against this side. I got a caliper here just so I know if I'm bending the actual arm itself. So we're gonna go ahead and press this out. And if it doesn't come out, you're gonna have to do more hammering around the brim. There it goes. There. Okay, so that's how that works right there. The camera can pick this up, so that's what we just popped out right here, is this part. Actually ended up having just to jam something in between the control arm because it was flexing a little bit, but other than that, that's how you do that. We got this piece out right here. We're gonna go ahead and get the actual bushing out. Alright, so the next thing we're gonna do is put your bushing in the vise here, and we gotta get it out from this metal tube that we just removed from the actual control arm. And how we do that is just we drill holes all around it and just keep using bigger and bigger bits, and then it'll make it really easy to press out. So I'll just show you a few holes here. Probably better to start out with a smaller bit, but and just keep doing that. Try not to hit anything metal, and then I have a vacuum on standby, and I just vacuum all the shavings, and just keep doing that, and then we'll press it out afterwards. Alright guys, so I just drilled a ton of holes in it. I started with bigger bits, then I just went to a smaller bit and just pretty much connected all the holes. I'm just going to flip it over and do a little bit more drilling just so it's really easy to get out. So I'm going to just do that real quick. Alright guys, so this is the next press setup. You want to grab your medium ring, the second largest, and that just fits right here, and that bushing is going to press out into it, and then we'll put that cap on there, and it'll just go like that, just like that. And then I'm just gonna, you can just use the regular plunger to press it, or I'm just gonna throw this end piece on again and press it down like that. So I'll show you that. Should be out. Like I said, I drilled a lot of holes. And there you go. This here, you can either keep pressing it out, but I just been taking it to the vise and just throwing a sawzall in there and just cutting, you know, to the edge. Don't cut the metal, just cut the bushing. That's what I've been doing. You can put it back in the press if you wanted. Okay, I just took my sawzall to it and I'm just gonna pick the bushing out just like that. So there we go. Next step, grab a drill, a bit on it, grab some steel wool, and just be careful when you do this. Just make sure it's on ready tighty, and screw some steel wool in, and we're just going to clean the inside of this out real nice. Okay guys, just get it as good as you can. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just get it kind of smooth, just so the bushing can get in. And after that, we are ready to install it back into the control arm. Just make sure this lip here, that there's nothing bending in. So when you put this in, it only goes one way. As you can see, you can't put it in that way. So you gotta flip the arm over, and it just goes in that way. And you simply just tap it in with a hammer until it's back flush with this lip here. So you can put some WD-40 on it if you want, whatever. So that's what I'll do next here. If you can't get it going straight, just put another hammer on there and okay, so now we're ready to put the bushing in. Alright guys, so I went and got my other end prepared for the new bushings, and this is what you're going to do with this kit. Is it pretty much tells you what bushing goes on which side, but as you can see, this one has a lip on it, so that's going to go on this side, and it's going to cover that. It's not going to go on the flange side, it's going to go on the other side, so that one's going to go there. And then this one that's flat is going to go on the flange side right here. And then we'll just put this guy right in the middle in one of these. So they give you grease. So what we're going to do first is we're just going to grab some grease, and you can be pretty liberal with this. They give you a lot of it, and you just want to get everything nice and greased up. Once you get this greased up, just run your finger in here just to get a little bit of grease in there. Just like that. And then grab some more grease. This gets pretty messy. I'd wear gloves if I were you. Grease the outside here. Just cake it, really. And then put a little bit on the face. So we got it nice and greased up. We're just gonna put this and slide it in until it's flush. Then we're going to go ahead and grease the other one here. Let's get it all nice and greased up here. Do a little bit on the face, a little bit inside. Just get it nice and caked. Okay, so this is going to go on that side. I'm actually going to throw in this one first. Doesn't matter which one you put that part through, but just a little get so you can see. So I'm just going to push it in to get started. Sometimes if you get lucky, you can actually put these in by hand. This one I'm probably gonna have to use a press just to give it a little more coaxing to get in. So we got that started. It looks straight. So we'll put the other one in here. Make sure you get her through the center. And push this guy in. So this one looks like it went almost all the way in. We're just gonna have to get the ball joint press to get this one to go further so it's nice and flush. This part will actually be touching the face of the arm once it's all the way in. And we'll go ahead and do that real quick. Alright, to press in the bushing all the way, I'm just gonna sandwich it in between both these pieces right here. Just be really careful when you're doing this. You don't want to damage your bushing, although it's kind of hard because this is some good stuff. So just gonna get it lined up, and it shouldn't take that much effort to push it all the way in. So just slowly crank on it and just watch it. And I can see it moving down, so that's good. And once it starts getting hard and you can't move the ratchet anymore, you just want to take her back off and she should be in. Okay. Let's see, this part didn't go all the way through, but you should just be able to push it with your thumb until it's flush. And it's flush on this side. Alright, so I'm ready to put my control arms in and be done with this project. One thing I really recommend when installing your control arms is make sure you put anti-seize on your bolts so you won't have that problem where the bolts get seized up in the bushing and you have to cut them. Just in case if you ever put new control arms in or anything like that, just make it easy on yourself or whoever else will have to do the control arms next. Okay guys, so I'm down here now, about to install my upper control arm back in my pickup. First step is to get some grease here, if you can see that. And we're just gonna grease up the faces of the bushings here. Just get them nice and greased up because they'll be in contact with metal. And I'm gonna install this upper control arm. I marked the front on it and it goes like this. So what you want to do is slide it above where it goes on the back of the pickup and then just slide it in the upper part here. And sometimes you gotta tap it with the hammer and kind of work it in. This one I'm probably gonna have to tap it a little bit, but you just want to get it as forward as you can, then bring it down in the back and then just tap it and line up the holes. Pretty simple. Okay, so I got it in the back here, and my holes are pretty much lined up right now. Alright guys, so I got my upper control arm in. That one went pretty well, didn't have to tap it or anything, it just gotta work it into place. Next step is you want to grab your bolt and some anti-seize, and you just want to cover your bolt in anti-seize so you never have that problem again where the bolts are going to seize up into the bushing. Just in case if you ever have to take your control arms out again, it'll make it a lot easier. So just get the bolt and then get a little on the threads, and you're ready to put your bolt through the holes, and we'll get this upper control arm installed. We won't torque it down yet until we get the lower one in. So that bolt's in. Just do the same thing with your other bolt, anti-seize. Doesn't matter which way you put your bolt, just do whatever you want. So I had to tap it down a little bit. We'll get it here. Just a little tap on this side. Should go pretty easy. And then just put your nuts on and we'll move on to the lower control arm. So we're gonna put the lower control arm back in. Same process, just get a little bit of grease and coat your bushing. Make sure the bushing face is clean of debris and any, sort of metal shavings or whatever. Also, make sure inside of your brackets are fairly clean. If they're not, just get some steel wool or sandpaper, or you could even use a grinder to clean them up. It's really up to you. Mine look alright, so I'm just gonna leave it. Okay, as you can see, my brackets are a little bent, so I'm just gonna grab a big crescent wrench and just kind of bend them back straight. I believe someone must have put the jack underneath here and kind of bent it in. I had to bend it out before I cut it, so I kind of assumed that. So I'm gonna grab a wrench and just bend these brackets back into place. They're pretty easy to bend, so. And I'm just tapping the back of the control arm there. Okay, so looking back here at my bolt hole, I gotta go forward with the whole thing. How I do that is I just been getting a crescent wrench or something and then just hitting it like this. Okay guys, so I did some hammering on it. I'm just gonna go ahead and install the cam bolt here. Again, make sure to put a lot of anti-seize in it, on it. Just like that, get it all over the bolt. Also important to get it on the back side here. This is where it likes to rust, right to that bracket. Just get it right on that back side if you can see that. And then the bolt is gonna start from the inside and get pushed out. Like that, and then put a little anti-seize on this part here, and then it just goes on a certain way like that. I didn't show it on camera, but after I put that bolt in, I still had trouble lining up this back hole. So what I did was I just grabbed a bar here and I stuck it through the hole, lined up the hole, and then worked the bolt from the other side, and that seemed to work pretty well. So if you're having troubles, just know that you can kind of work those holes into place to get those bolts through. So now I'm gonna tighten up my control arms, the torque specs for these, and make sure to use another source. Don't just take my word for it. Just do your research and maybe your owner's manual or something to find the proper torque specs for your vehicle. Anyway, for me, I'm going to torque my cam bolt down right there. That's going to be 170 foot-pounds of torque. The bolt on the lower control arm, that's to the frame. I'm going to torque that down to 140 foot-pounds of torque. And then for the upper control arm, for both of the axle bracket and the frame bracket, I'm going to tighten those bolts down to 120 foot-pounds. So do that on all 4 control arms, and I hope this video helped you guys. It was not the funnest job, but I figure that I'd make a video on it. If you guys have any questions whatsoever, I'll be happy to help. Any questions on getting the stubborn bolt out, where to cut. One thing that really helped with this job, and I highly recommend, is these Diablo blades. I mean, these things are awesome. And I cut through 2 grade 10 bolts, and I still have all the teeth on the blade, and it cut like butter. When I first started this job, I didn't have these blades, and I use those Milwaukee blades, which are good, but I use about 4 of them on 1 bolt. So spend a little bit of money, get some nice blades for this job. You're gonna thank yourself later. So again, if you guys have any questions, I'd be happy to help. So be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. I'll be posting more how-to videos as I begin doing all this other work to my pickup. So yeah, thanks for watching, and I hope this helped you guys out.